My earliest memory is riding in my grandfather's boat, arm over the side, hand in the spray. I've spent much of the rest of my life chasing this feeling. All of that has led to this, the wooden boat experience. By the way, what's the goal for tonight? Light's starting to fade. I don't want to see any more green paint after today. That's my goal. One of the best things about this week, no more green paint. And also, we found out something about Herman. No paint, Herman. So I don't know who Herman was, but he wasn't supposed to paint this boat, or he was supposed to paint this boat and he didn't. But anyway, Herman, if you're watching, let us know what happened. You'd have to be pretty old by now, I think. Unless this was done recently, which I don't think so. This hull needs to be in primer before winter, which means now it needs to be faired. Notice I transferred from the bigger cans of the fairing into the smaller ones just so I don't contaminate the whole thing. I got these all cleaned off earlier. Good enough for now. Oh, where'd that one go? I don't know. But I am holding one in reserve that's not been touched. But for putting on these initial coats, these are just fine. I like them medium size a little better. That's why I cut them down. You want to mix this up thoroughly. Somebody mentioned before not using cardboard, but I have never found it to be a problem mixing Bondo or anything, sucking the moisture out. And this stuff isn't really that wet, and it's not really on there very long. I'm working this stuff. You have to work with this pretty fast. You don't have a lot of extra time. Always make sure you scrape it off. You can see how it's still yellow at the bottom there, even though we've been working this for a minute. And I'm going to have to do that again. I don't want to see streaks of blue or streaks of yellow in here. And I probably have just a little bit too much on here right now. Makes it harder to mix thoroughly when you have too much. You got to use too big of an area, it gets all over the place. I can tell you this stuff sticks to your arm pretty well. That's been on there for a few days. I actually leaned into it. Then I put a long sleeve shirt on. Never even realized I had done it till an hour later when the shirt stuck to me. And I tried to get it all off and I haven't been able to yet. You definitely don't want to overwork this stuff. Get it spread out the best you can in the first couple tries. And then leave it, assuming that unless it's your last coat, this is not going to be your last time to work this area. And a little bit extra to be sanded off later quite often is better than not enough. That means a whole nother coat and a whole nother session. Now this is under the water line, and I'm not trying to make a show car here. I want it nice and consistent, but I'm not going to get too crazy about the part that's under the water line. Knowing it'll have bottom paint on it, which isn't the smoothest stuff in the world anyway. My stupid phone's been going off all day long today. Now I am discovering that a little bit more is actually better than a bunch of very light ones up there. I discovered this because, oh rats. I was coming back time and time again to the same area. And now when I say a little bit more, this isn't very thick here. I mean, I would guess this is about, I don't know, not even a 64th of an inch thick in most of this, except for right here. So it's not a ton of this stuff, but it is a full layer. So I'm just going to leave that like that. Leave the extra on here. It comes off a lot better if you leave some on here. Once it dries, you flex this and it'll come off. Wipe my gloves off. That one's done. I'll just leave that to cure till tomorrow. Both sides of that cardboard have been used. That'll get chucked out and I'll clean the spreader back off. But that looks pretty good. Got a couple little glitches in there. This isn't there'll be time to fix those little tiny areas. I'll just sand that off. Let's move up to the front. Make sure you pull both ways on these screws. Don't just go over it once, you'll have an air pocket in there. It works best to come back to the beginning and do a nice long sweep with this stuff. Remember, everything that you leave up high, you're going to have to sand off. So it's a fine line between digging down too much and leaving too much. Now, if you've got a little bit left like this, go find a spot that you're not getting to till later and fill those in. No sense in wasting it. We don't need to. Also keep in mind that from what I've read, this stuff does not stick to some paints. So make sure you read the directions. You don't want a bunch of this peeling off later on. Patreon is not only about supporting the wooden boat experience, but also you get to see some other videos that only Patreon members get to see. Here's 2 from last week, one about catching the drone that I couldn't do, and another one about the skiff chairs. And these are called deep cuts. This one's 7 minutes long, and this one is only, I think, about a minute long. But it's stuff that other people don't get to see, only the Patreon members. So for as little as $1 a month, you can be a Patreon member as well. I hope you do. I made an old man. I said, tell me your story. He took out an old pen. By the way, the reason that I'm spending this time on the skiff right now is I want to get it to the point where I can do 2 things. I can figure out where these stations are going, and I'm going to do that very soon. I also want to coat this with boiled linseed oil and paint and mineral spirits, a mixture of that, to try to get this wood to not be so dry. But I can't do that until I get some of this finish off here. So I think what I'm going to do is figure out these stations next, and then measure for those and make sure I've got a good idea about those. Then I'm going to roll this boat over. It'll be a lot easier to deal with this, taking this finish off and painting it upside down. And the real reason, as you guys know, it's my curiosity. I really need to look at this thing. It's in my head all the time, and if I don't do a little bit on it every once in a while, it's driving me crazy. So that's what I'm doing. There's a method to the madness, but I haven't figured it out what the end result of the method is. We'll get there. Well, we're back to a little bit of the plastic noise, but pretty soon we'll get the clear that's going to be shrinkable, and we hopefully won't have that anymore. So what I want to do is a little test here. There's some remnants, even though somebody has started to refinish this. Definitely there's some thick green paint you can see has been stripped off, but there's remnants on the cedar. Now you have to be careful with the cedar because it's such a soft wood that you can't get too aggressive with it. So I'm going to do a little test just on this front section. We're going to take it from what it looks like right now. I'm going to see how easily this varnish comes off. Some of it's stripped, I think, on the other side on this shear plank right here. And just to see what it's going to take to strip this. I don't want to get too into it because I got to work on the Chris-Craft as well, but this has been in my head, and I'm going to play around with this for just a few minutes, and then I'll get to doing some more fairing on the Chris-Craft. I'm sure it's just because over the years so many people have worked on this boat, but it's such a strange combination of good and bad. So you see this really nice joint right here, stepped in. It's got, I believe it's those tapered copper nails again, but they seem to be holding quite well. But then when you get up to this section, which is underneath, look at the mild steel nails in there. I don't know if you can see it with this picture or not. It's just one after another after another. Look at the size of them. I mean, these things are huge. That was into the deck a good 1 3/4 inches, maybe 2 inches, and there's just one after another. And they go through all different ways. This one's backwards. There's a head on this one on the wrong side. I haven't figured that one out yet, but I just found the best way to do this is with this oscillating tool. Spread it out a little bit, get in there and just cut these off, because you just destroy the wood trying to pull them in any other way. So little by little, we'll get it this way. I think it might be black walnut. It's really hard to tell. I don't know. I'm still not sure. Now, when I want to pry this piece here, when I bring the bar down through here, it's going to pry against this shear strake, and that's cedar. If I put any pressure on that in one small area, it's going to crack. So I'm taking this old card scraper and using that to distribute the pressure against that cedar a little bit more. I'll get that out a little bit, drop this in here as a wedge. You can definitely see evidence of this being put on after this, because there's a nail here that's been cut off that's underneath this piece right here, and it's one of the big nails, strangely enough. I kind of thought those had been put in by somebody later on, but I don't know. More mystery every time you turn around. I love this joint though. I really want to save, both these pieces are in pretty good shape, so I want to put this back in. I'll just get this little wedge out of here, which I've kind of trapped. There's so many nails that I can't even fit the head of this in between them. They're just everywhere in here. There we go. Now we got a little space. So here you can see, oh, I guess it's not cut off. That's actually the head of the nail that I cut. Nope, that's the regular head. So this piece was just nailed on, and you can see, look at all the different ways that this has been attached. This one backwards. Very strange and very interesting. It's like there's a whole bunch of little mysteries here. So we'll leave that piece like that. That's enough on this boat for today. All of them are like this. They start to come out, but then they don't go anywhere because the wood is in such bad shape there. You can see it's got an iron sickness, and we'll deal with all these problems, but it's going into that deck framing piece right here, and just really not doing anything. It's just sort of there. Okay, we've created a station. You can see it's marked where the shear is. It's marked where the center is. It's touching all along. It's not perfect. This is just a preliminary. I want to get a little closer in these spots right here, but it's pretty darn close. This is just to see how far off is it from side to side. So now we're going to flip this over. First we got to remove that rail right there, and that pulled right off by hand on this side. And we're going to flip this over and see if that station is the same over there. Is this boat the same shape on the other side? So let's get down from here, take the ladder over, and take a look. All right, that came right off. Now let's bring this around this way. Again, we're in the center. center as far as the keel goes. And you can see the side's pretty darn close. It's a little off down here, but you got to expect the way this is sitting in as bad a shape as it's in, that it's not very far off. So that's pretty encouraging. You can see the center is on the center. The shear is down a little bit, and if we were to push this part in, then the shear would go up. There's the center right there. This shear is in the right spot. That one's not. So we might have to mess around with that. But we also have that shear over there. There's some wood missing there. It could have dropped a little bit. It sort of looks like it sags down. But there is a station. Now, we can't use cardboard for this, or corrugate, technically is what this is, but we can turn this into a template for a piece of plywood. So we will do the same thing here, and at that blue tape, and then 2 more at that end, which will give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stations. I think that'll be enough. Looks to be, when I look at other people, the way they've done it, that their stations are about this far apart. But maybe we'll make some more. Maybe we'll actually come in here and go every 2 feet. I don't know. I'm going to touch base with Andy Derby on that one. But this is the one that is, this is the center right here of the boat, the skiff. So, yeah, we could have it. We did another one, and maybe we won't even use this one. Maybe this is just a test and we'll actually move it farther forward. I'm not sure. I'm gonna ask him if 5 is enough, if that'll give us a fair boat if we were to build another one.